Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya Stottara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya Stottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Savior of the whole world, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimate Devamrita Swaminiti Namine, Charpurvaraksham Cha Bhakta Charvavinata, Parartha Tapikarunyam Yasya Sarvejate Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyaresha Tarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna, Krishna, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, I believe. 6th canto, right? Chapter, hold on a second. 6th canto, chapter 13, text 2 through 4.
It's chapter 14.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I messed up there. Yeah, it's actually chapter 14. I put chapter 13. My mistake.
No problem. I can never remember any numbers anyway. So we're hearing chapter 14, King Chitraketu's lamentation. Text number 2 says, Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam Chamalatmanam Bhaktir Mukunda Charane Na Prayeno Pajayate Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam Chamalatmanam Bhaktir Mukunda Charane Na Prayeno Pajayate Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam Chamalatmanam Bhaktir Mukunda Charane Na Prayeno Pajayate. Anybody else want to read?
Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam Chamalatmanam Bhaktir Mukunda Charane Na Prayeno Pajayate.
Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam Chamalatmanam Bhaktir Makunda Charane Naprayeno Pajayate.
Devanam Sudha Sattvanam Vishnam Shamalamatmanam Bhaktir Makunda Charane Naprayeno Pajayate.
Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam Chamalatmanam Bhaktir Mukunda Charane Naprayeno Pajayate.
Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam Chamalatmanam Bhaktir Mukunda Charane Naprayeno Pajayate.
Wow, spectacular. So many devotees reading. Thank you, dear devotees. Word for word translation says, Devanam, of the demigods, Shuddha Sattvanam, whose minds are purified, Rishinam, of great saintly persons, Cha, and Amala Atmanam, who have purified their existence, Bhakti, devotional service, Mukunda Charane, to the lotus feet of Mukunda, the Lord who can give liberation. Na, not. Prayena, almost always. Upajayate, develops. Translation by His Divine Grace. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I just remembered. Great verse. Anyway. Demigods situated in the mode of goodness and great saints cleansed of the dirt of material enjoyment hardly ever render pure devotional service at the lotus feet of Mukunda. Therefore, how could Vritrasura have become such a great devotee? Seems that our Srila Prabhupada has helped us to understand the context by adding in, therefore, how could Vritrasura have become such a great devotee? Text number 3 states, Rajobi sammasankyataha Parthivair iha jantava Tesham ye kechane hante Shreyovai manujadaya. In this material world, there are as many living entities as atoms. Among these living entities, a very few are human beings, and among them, few are interested in following religious principles. In text number 4, Prayo mumukshavaste kechanaiva dvijotama mumukshunam sahasreshu kaschin muchyeta siddhyati. Oh, best translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. O best of the Brahmanas, Shukadev Goswami, out of many persons who follow religious principles, only a few desire liberation from the material world. That's true. Among many thousands who desire liberation, one may actually achieve liberation, giving up material attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife, and children. And among many thousands of such liberated persons, one who can understand the true meaning of liberation is very rare. Purport. There are four classes of men, namely karmis, jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas. This statement pertains especially to karmis and jnanis. A karmi tries to be happy within this material world by changing from one body to another. There's a typo on the Veda Base website. A karmi tries to be happy within this material world by changing from one body to another. His objective is bodily comfort, either in this planet or in another. When such a person becomes a jnani, however, he aspires for liberation from material bondage. Among many such persons who aspire for liberation, one may actually be liberated during his life. Such a person gives up his attachment for society, friendship, love, country, family, wife, and children. Among many such persons who are in the vanaprastha stage, one may understand the value of becoming a sannyasi, completely accepting the renounced order of life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Karama Hyam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanja Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. So we're hearing more about was it Maharaj Parikshit's surprise that Vritrasura seemed very saintly and is very wise and very devoted to the Lord. And so in expression of his surprise, he's saying, this is statistically uncommon. There's a statistical analogy here. I mean, a statistical nonconformity that even demigods who are in the mode of goodness and great saints cleansed of the dirt of material enjoyment hardly ever render pure devotional service at the lotus feet of Mukunda. Therefore, how could Vritrasura have become such a great devotee? We should be asking ourselves the same question, of course, because with the exception of a few people in the room prior to coming in contact with great devotees, we were also not very qualified for pure devotional service, not qualified to understand who's Radha and Krishna, how the Lord enjoys in the spiritual world. You should recognize it's uncommon. It's very rare. The Lord says this everywhere. The devotees say this everywhere. Manusyanam sahasreshu, right? I need confirmation from our shlokarini. Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Out of many thousands among men, hardly one will even aspire for perfection, what to speak of attaining the perfection of devotional service. Yatatam api siddhanam kaschin me. I'm looking at you, Jana. Kaschin me. Kaschin mam veti tatvata. Yes. Out of many, many people who, even the very rare ones who aspire for some truth or some sort of perfection in this life, more than just animal life, there's hardly any who attain that perfection, and fewer still who might know something about Krishna in truth. It's very rare. And just look, there's about 12 of us here right now. So what is the cause? If it's so rare, what is the cause? That's what Mara Parikshit will get to, of course, wanting to know what is that exceptional cause. And of course, we'll hear about Chitraketu and really his good fortune, although we'll hear about his misfortune in the form of losing a son, but his great fortune in the form of associating with the great devotee. Angira Rishi, I believe, is the one who comes and speaks to him. Is it Angira and Narada Muni come? Anyway, definitely Angira Rishi is there. So we should be asking ourselves the same. How is it that we are so fortunate to be in contact with the devotees, to hear and chant about Krishna, to know a little something about Krishna? Even highly qualified demigods don't do it. Even many great saints who are cleansed of the dirt of material enjoyment, they're very pure. Still, they cannot render devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's not the qualification to have some huge status or to be materially pure. That's not the qualification. That's why this question from Parikshit is so important, because of course it's pointing to the real qualification so that we can appreciate how fortunate we are and give a little of that fortune to others. Give a little bit. Give a little bit of that love. So to emphasize still the rarity, Maharaj Parikshit goes on to say that in this material world, there are as many living entities as atoms, which I find to be a remarkable statement, because although there are several living entities sharing this body, there's a couple inside my guts, and probably in some other places, depending on my level of hygiene. But still, there's a lot more atoms. So how can there be as many living entities as atoms? That's really a phenomenal statement. But who can propose to understand exactly what's going on throughout this entire material world? Suffice to say that there are many, many, many living entities, not just the few billion humans that we have on this planet. But there should be no doubt that there are living entities everywhere, Prabhupada said, even on the sun. So amongst all of those living entities, very few are human beings. At that crucial junction between animalistic life and propulsion towards Krishna consciousness. It's a very crucial junction that is quite special for humans, actually. Although other species, other forms can also become Krishna conscious, but the human form especially is critical. And so amongst all the many, many, many living entities, as many as atoms, very few are human beings, actually. We only know of about 8 billion. And among them, very few are interested in following religious principles. Now, I wonder what yuga, I mean, it is the Kali Yuga, and statistics show that approximately 85% of the world adheres to some sort of religion. But whether or not there's interest in following religious principles, of course, is a bit more subjective and personal. Adherence to religion may be for many reasons, and we should ask ourselves also, what's the reason I'm here? Why did I get up on a Saturday morning when the weather is starting to become warmer and listen to Bhagavatam class, which is a religious principle, instead of, I don't know, watching Saturday morning cartoons? Remember doing that as kids? The best cartoons were on a Saturday morning. So there might be many reasons why we're here, why someone participates in any religion. But we should ask ourselves, why do we choose to really follow religious principles? Besides just, I don't know, being a member. As glorious as that it is, I'm not really trying to judge anyone's level of devotion at this particular point. But it's easy to be a member It's easy to, be surveyed as a this or a that. But here, Maharaj Parikshit is saying that fewer still actually follow religious principles. So how is it that we're in that category? Assuming most of us listening today are. And even less, even of all those who follow religious principles, very few really desire liberation. And that, of course, we can see especially in the three big religions of the world, Christianity and Islam and Judaism, and really so many Hindus as well, that persons are following religious principles, but what is their goal? Not liberation, but prosperity. Prosperity theology is all the rage at this particular stage in Kali Yuga. It's hip. It's very popular. Prosperity theology is the notion that with the following of religious principles and an increase in my piety, there should also be reward in the form of prosperity, materially. I should become more successful, should have more money, should have happiness and health and influence and get a better job and, I don't know, get some status or some political status. I should become president or king as a result of my piety. So this prosperity theology is very popular. Of course, we've all heard about it in America with the new phenomenon of mega churches and their huge money, and I'm sure many of them are giving charity and doing nice things, but also having private jets and huge mansions, and things can become a little excessive. And if we go to the other side of the world, of course, I get to hear about Saudi Arabia a lot, where the crown prince is, we don't even know what level of wealth they have. They don't really disclose exactly the exact numbers, but basically inconceivable amount of wealth for us. And, and they certainly attribute it to their piety, of course, their particular application of Islam. So there's no shortage of people who, even of the few who follow religious principles, still more of them are interested in attaining more in this material world, actually getting more involved in this material world, having more success, and in this way perpetuating their cycle of material existence. They'll be forced to come back again and again until they become one of the, even rarer still, people who desire liberation from material world. Very special, actually. When one finally wakes up their intelligence and they realize, I just want to get out of here. I don't want to be involved in this material world at all. That even having wealth and prosperity is a burden and a problem. That takes a special level of intelligence, but one can do it on their own, actually. Even with one's own intelligence, one can realize, I don't want to be in this material world. I'm done with it. The famous example of that is Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, who was raised in opulence as a prince within the confines and the compound of his father's palace or whatever, until one day he specifically requested to go outside of the palace grounds and see a bit of the real world. And he saw some suffering, some homeless, some disease. And just with his own intelligence, he realized, well, hold on a second, I shouldn't be in this material world. So with one's own intelligence, you could become one of those especially rare people who actually desire liberation from the material world. It's smart. It's quite smart to look at the situation and say, no thanks. I'd like to get out of here. But that's not devotion. That's still, compared to pure devotion, that's still quite common. Rare indeed compared to all the living entities in the material world, and compared to the number of humans, and even compared to the number of humans who follow religious principles, but still it's much more common than those who really aspire for pure devotional service. So that's why Maharaj Parikshit goes on to say, even among many thousands who may desire liberation, hardly one may achieve liberation. And I think this is where I have to bow out. I might desire liberation, but still I'm holding on with two hands. Yeah, I want to be free from this material world, but I'm double fisting this material world right now. I'm trying to hold on. So one who actually achieves, it's uncommon. It's very uncommon. Because as Krishna says in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's very difficult, actually. Very difficult. Klesha dikatarastesham. To get liberation, one who aspires for liberation, but not devotional service. Really, it's quite difficult, especially if you're embodied. We can have a show of hands if you like. Those who are embodied, feel free to raise your hand. So he says it's very, very difficult to attain liberation while one is embodied, to get mukti, moksha. Because all we're aware of, all we're familiar with is attachment to things of this world because of relationship to the body. It's very hard to shed that. So let's keep in mind that even if we're at the stage of desiring liberation, perhaps because of some frustration with material existence, that perhaps just because we're so tired of material existence, still there is no guarantee. It's very difficult while one has a material body. So he says, hardly one may actually achieve liberation, giving up material attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife, and children. It's an interesting list, which is perfectly congruent with what Lord Kapila says about Maituni Bhava, remember? I'm just trying to impress Janavatsala with some slokas here. Pumksa striya Maituni Bhava mehitam, tayor mityo hridaya granti ahu, ato griha kshetra sutta apta vitair, janasya moho yam aham mameti. Lord Kapila says these are the symptoms of attachment, which is mostly born out of Maituni Bhava, the attraction between male and female. That, or the romantic attraction, that griha, home, kshetra, land, sutta, which is your offspring, apta, extended societal obligations, vitair, right? I'm not sure if I've translated apta and vitair. Anyway, society, country, all the things that extend from family, basically, because you can't just have the kids and just live in some shack in the middle of nowhere. Then if you have the kids and they have to go to school, then there's the whole like obligation of social interaction, you know, like here in my cul-de-sac where I live, there's just all kids of the same age, which is really nice because the kids all play with each other. But then you also have that obligation to be friends with all the kids' parents, to know all their names and to ask everything when you pull into the driveway. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? How's it going, Elizabeth? And you got to get into all that sort of stuff. It all comes with it. It's a big package. When you order a package, you don't just get the thing. You get all the wrappings. You get all the stuffing. You get all the shipping labels. You get everything. So here and in this verse, Maharaj Parikshit is listing the exact same things that Lord Kapila said about attachment that comes out of romantic attraction. It is it's a big entanglement. And so hardly any achieve liberation, giving up that material attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife, and children. It's actually quite rare, and we should not assume, dear devotees, that just because we're card-carrying members of the Hare Krishna movement, it's because I've got my dhoti and tilak, that somehow at the time of death, liberation is just going to happen automatically. If there's still attachment, then there's still attachment. And you have to come back. And we might be fortunate to come back and be still engaged in devotional service, but if there's still attachment, there's very rare to achieve liberation. Let's be honest about it. It's very rare to achieve. It's not just because I've murmured a few rounds here and there, and I've eaten a bit of prasadam, and you know, is mostly nice to the devotees, but I'm still very much attached to society, my particular society, my particular national identification or ethnic identification, or my particular friend group, the one in relations to my body. I really like my house and, really still have some fondness for my wife and kids, and it'd be nice to continue to see them. And so, boom, we have to do it again, frankly speaking. As Prabhupada put it nicely, there will be ISKCON in the heavenly planets. That was his nice way of saying. For those many, many devotees who still have some attachment to this material world, of course, their piety and their devotional service, mixed though it may be, will qualify them for a great position within this material world. But still, he said very kindly, there will be ISKCON in the heavenly planets, referring to those who are still very much attached. So that's why these verses that we're reading now, Maharaj Parikshit's curiosity about Vritrasura, about Chitraketu, that's why this is very important if we really want to go to the next level and not just assume that it's all going to happen automatically. I don't recall reading any verse that says, at the time of death, Krishna waves a magic wand and then you become a pure devotee. I don't recall reading that verse. Or that pure devotion happens automatically just by the passage of time, by your age, or by your status, or by how many people, how many followers you have. I don't recall any verse that says that. We have to really become a pure devotee. Anya abhilashita shunyam, jnana karma adyanavritam, anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhaktirutama. Right? Which in English means, hold on, I can never remember the English. I got the Sanskrit down. What is the English? Anya abhilashita shunyam. This is the definition of pure devotional service. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably, without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. This is called pure devotional service. Jnana karmadi anavritam. Avritam means to be covered, to have some covering. Just like you order some package, it's got a lot of coverings. What is a covering on ourselves? Is still some jnana, some karma. The desire to know and that control that comes with it. We should recognize what's the problem with jnana, materialistic jnana, is that concomitant with the desire to know is that feeling of superiority, that I'm in control. If you know about something, well, then I have some sort of superiority over it. I have some sort of dominance over it, some jurisdiction. We need to give up this jnana, this attachment. And of course, karma, the desire to enjoy fruitive activity and its results. Dear devotees, are we still avritam by jnana and karma? Are we still a little covered by desire for fruitive action and its results, that phala, the delicious fruit of our action? Are we still covered by some desire to be knowledgeable and therefore have some sense of control, some superiority, some dominance? This materialistic jnana, of course there is vijnana, transcendental knowledge, bhakti jnana, transcendental knowledge of devotional service, but the jnana that's referred to here, which covers pure devotional service, is that knowledge of this material world and how to control its elements, control other people. Or even the vain idea that one has complete knowledge of God and therefore somehow some superiority. Oh, I know everything about this scripture or that scripture, so in one sense, I know everything about God. It is very popular, of course, with that new atheist movement. I know they kind of died out now, but, assuming that they've understood everything about God and then being very judgmental about it. But of course, Prabhupada would say they're just licking the jar of honey from the outside. Really, they don't know a damn thing. They don't know anything. But still, that's that jnana. Oh, I know what's really going on. So this is a covering which prevents pure devotional service. And we have to ask ourselves, dear devotees, are we jnana karma dhyanavritam? Are we free from that covering? and therefore rendering service favorably to the Lord. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhakti Ruttama. That's pure devotional service. We should not take for granted that just because I've mumbled a few rounds. No, we really have to become pure devotees. It doesn't happen automatically with the passage of time. I haven't seen that verse anywhere, but we certainly like to assume that sometimes. But I don't recall any verse that says pure devotional service happens automatically with the passage of time. In fact, it seems that the exact opposite is said. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, who is the speaker of that verse, Janavatsala, that one may chant for many, many lifetimes? What is it now? What's the verse? We say in the morning. We say in the morning before reciting the 10 offenses. Anyway, slipped my mind. You all know it.
Bahu something.
Bahu Janma Kariyari Shravana Kirtanam. Thank you, Dasya Prem Prabhu. You can be chanting for many, many lifetimes. Bahu Janma. Many, many lifetimes. It's quite the opposite of the I don't know, perhaps our sentimental desire that pure devotional service is just going to happen automatically with the passage of time. Quite the opposite, that we can be doing it for many, many lifetimes, which is glorious, it's great. But pure devotional service must be something that we really understand by seeing the example of the pure devotees and daily aspire for. I need to do it right now, not just wait until later. Not wait until the time of death and just hope it happens. I need to do it right now. That's why this question is coming up again and again and again in Srimad Bhagavatam, so that we can see and hear again and again what is pure devotional service. Which is why Maharaj Parikshit goes on to say, even among many thousands of such liberated persons, they actually attain liberation, which is so rare. Even among thousands of those, one who understands the true meaning of liberation is very rare. What is the true meaning of liberation? You all know, Muktir hitvanyata rupam svarupena vivyastiti. I can't remember the second line, only the first line. But as Prabhupada would say, real liberation means to be situated in one's eternal constitutional position. Devotional service. That's even more rare. Even of many thousands who actually attained liberation from material existence, it's even more rare for one to be situated in devotional service. Muktir hitvanyata rupam. A very similar thing will be said in the next verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Muktanam appisidanam narayana parayana. So you have to recognize it's very uncommon. We're so close, devotees. We are very rare. We're very special. We are very, very special. But we should look in the mirror and be honest and say, I'm not special enough. I still need to attain pure devotional service. I need to make that conscious choice that I'm going to be a pure devotee of Lord Krishna and give up all attachment to jnana and karma and really surrender and not just assume that it's going to happen. It's going to just fall in my lap. So we're definitely very special. I think many of us, what status are we in this whole hierarchy that Maharaj Parikshit's describing here? We're definitely desiring liberation, maybe actually going to achieve liberation. Maybe really giving up attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife, and children. Perhaps we even understand the true meaning of liberation. We know it from hearing from Srila Prabhupada. But to come to that level of devotional service, completely free from attachment to karma and jnana, we gotta be honest. We gotta be honest and ask ourselves, am I there yet? I know I'm making progress. Let's not be distraught, thinking, oh, yesterday, why are you getting on our case, reminding me of all of my attachments? Can't we all just call each other Prabhu and just assume we're going to see each other in Goloka Vrindavan? Isn't that much nicer? Can't we just talk like that? So I'm sorry if I may have reminded everybody of what attachments we still have. And sorry if I may have coerced you to think about how far we still are from pure devotional service as defined by Rupa Goswami. But let me also remind you that we can look back at how far we've come and feel so much encouragement that yes, it is entirely possible that I can become a pure devotee. Just see the transformation thus far. Just see. Before getting serious about bhakti, we can recall our previous existence. Those of you who remember, for those of us for whom it is still quite recent, like me, we can recall our previous existence and how distraught we were, how entangled, how morose, how frustrated, how sad, really, we were, and how much suffering we were experiencing, and how much of that has changed in the short time that we've applied ourselves to the practice of devotional service. And that should give us so much encouragement that, wow, I've come a long way. I can go the distance. Even though it still looks like there's a mountain of attachments in front of me. So I can't really do it because look how far I've come. You know, it's good to take stock of that and feel that encouragement. That mountain of attachment, that mountain of sinful activity, bad karma can be destroyed very quickly by meditating upon the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Dhyatur mana shamala shaila nashista vadram dhyantaram bhagavatas charanarvindam. Just as Indra destroys a mountain with his thunderbolt, it is said that meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord acts just like a thunderbolt upon the whole mountain of sinful karma, bad karma, and attachments that we still have within our mind. Huge explosion. So you have to feel some confidence, dear devotees. It is possible. We've come so far. And of course, really the whole subject of this inquiry from Maharaj Parikshit is going to point to, as it always does, the real cause of this rare achievement of devotional service, which is the association of the devotees. Let us never get tired of hearing about that ultimate cause of our good fortune, the association of the devotees. It is a recurring theme in Srimad Bhagavatam, and it should be a recurring theme, not only because we should repeatedly associate with devotees every day, as if possible, but because it's occurring right now, as we're talking, as we're speaking. There's a person meeting a devotee for the first time, coming in contact with someone who's devoted to Lord Krishna, and their life's trajectory is being transformed permanently at this moment. I mean, how awesome is that? For those of us who had the cathartic experience of coming to bhakti, and even for Jana and so many second, third generation devotees, still they have to make that conscious choice. I'm really going to do this because of being inspired by a devotee. I mean, that catharsis, that transformation is just always miraculous. There's a great book that the Russian devotees print, How I Came to Krishna Consciousness is the translation. I don't know how to say it in Russian. It's a huge tome, and they keep doing volumes and volumes of it with just hundreds, maybe it's filled up now with thousands of miraculous stories. Every story just a miracle. Statistically improbable miracles again and again and again. And that's happening right now because of the association of devotees. That's that remarkable cathartic experience that transforms and changes everything. That'll be the case for Chitraketu, and is the case for all of us. And it continues to be the case, and we can also be that case for others. If we understand the significance, if we understand the miracle of a single association with a devotee, then we can also be that conduit for pure devotional service. Even if we consider ourselves not very pure in our devotional service, we can still be the conduit. We can still be the cause of that incredible change in the trajectory of some living entity's existence, which is just spectacular. It really is spectacular. Whenever I read these verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is all about devotees becoming pure devotees. That's what Srimad Bhagavatam is about, becoming the pure devotee. Every single story, I don't know about every single, well, so many of the stories is just about someone becoming a pure devotee. And what is the remarkable transformation? How they become dear to the Lord, how they begin to serve the Lord with pure devotion. And it is always, the impetus is association with some devotee. When I read these stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, I always think, this isn't just some archaic history. This isn't just some incredible fantasy, like reading Lord of the Rings or something. It's just a really nice story. I get a cool buzz from it. The fight scene between Indra and Vritrasura, it's just entertaining. No, this is happening right now. This is something we're doing right now. The same thing. There might not be huge thunderbolts and galactic battles, but the more important part of the story, that's happening right now, all the time. So to be involved in that, to participate in that, giving the association of devotees and transforming someone's life is just, there's nothing greater. I'm sorry to say, there's absolutely nothing greater. It's just so spectacular at every moment. And so we should consider seeing this example of Chitraketu and how he'll become transformed in a very interesting, remarkable way. Remembering our own example of how we become transformed by the association of devotees and how far we've come in being free from attachments and being attached to Radha and Krishna's lotus feet. It should fill us with the utmost confidence that it can happen for anybody. It can happen for anybody. And so therefore, do it. Every single time a person comes to Krishna consciousness, it's always miraculous. And I can say confidently, since, been doing this sort of thing for 20 odd years now, pretty much every single week minimum, that it's rarely the ones you expect as well. I mean, there's so many people who come to our centers and you think, wow, this guy is a mess. I won't say the name because one of them's coming on our trip next week, Jenna. When I first met Corey, I mean, he was such a mess. Really, really pathetic, to be honest. I'm so unhealthy that you could see the blood vessels behind his face. He was just so unhealthy, so morose and so depressed. He could hardly even sit still. And I'm not trying to be mean here. It's just remarkable to see the transformation already, even in just a few short months. Just such a mess. Absolutely distraught. He came one time for our Wednesday Bhagavad Gita discussion, and it was just him, because it was during the summers, before all the students came back. And he could hardly even sit still. He was in such anxiety and stress. And I actually closed the book. I said, we need to do some stronger therapy. So I did something my old friend Munichari used to do in New Zealand. When someone really needs a strong dose of Krishna consciousness, we do what's called a loud round, where you chant, screaming as loud as you can, but while also doing a headstand. And I don't know what was his reasoning for why that is an effective method, but it definitely works every time. So I took this boy, sat him down. He said, what we need to do? Just scream the holy names as loud as you possibly can. And we did it. I mean, just really screamed, because it's like he could hardly even talk. He was so distraught. He was so messed up. And now look at him. He's leading kirtan, chanting so nicely. He's become so healthy and just so ecstatic. And, it's always the ones you don't expect. I've told you dear devotees so many times about my friend Apurva Madhuri in Sydney, who would come to our programs and she would just argue with me like anything. Just argue with me about every single thing, just so judgmental, so critical, really on the verge of being offensive. Well, and you Hare Krishnas are like this, and you guys do like that, and that's not really helping with society. We really have to do like this, and you're wasting your energy on this and that, but you just keep coming back. Week after week after week, and she'd argue, but I would avoid her. The kirtan would end, and then there's the serve out prasadam time, and I would just immediately, God, I can't talk to this. Annabelle was her name. And the Australians, they're a bit more rough around the edges. You all heard some of the stereotypes. And the language they use, oh my God, even the women, the language they use make you blush. It's just like, my God, how can you talk like that? I would avoid her. I'd try to run away from her. But somehow she just keep coming back, chanting, obviously so attached to the holy names and so attached to the devotees. Now she's one of Sydney's biggest preachers. In the time that I've left, she's probably made 20, 40 initiated devotees. Now they're doing their own preaching programs. she came along. She's doing the preaching programs. Now the people that she brought along, they've started their own preaching programs in different parts of Australia. It's always a miracle. That's my point. It's always a miracle. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is full of stories of miracles. How by the association of devotees, one achieves something which is so rare to accomplish, is so rarely attained. Manusyanam sahasreshu. Devotional service to Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world. So we should know the statistical improbability is right here. So many of us are right here listening to Srimad Bhagavatam class, chanting the holy names of Krishna. And why is that? Is it because we're very special? Is it because we deserve it? Is it because of our strict adherence to religious principles? Is it because of being situated in Sattva Guna, qualified like the demigods and the great sages? No. It's because of Srila Prabhupada. It's because we had some association with Srila Prabhupada, and the devotees have associated with Srila Prabhupada, and he simply created our good fortune. Poof, just like that. Let's never forget the recurring theme of Srimad Bhagavatam is that by the association of devotees, one attains something which is so rare, so precious, that we can hardly even conceive of it in our, in our developing devotional state. We can hardly even appreciate how rare that is. And let's not assume that, well, just because there's a bunch of devotees in the room right now, I guess it's not that special. No, it's very special. Srila Prabhupada is very special. That's what that means. Just because there's a bunch of devotees here right now, it doesn't mean that it's not very rare. It just means that Srila Prabhupada is so exceptional that even hogs, dogs, camels, and asses in the form of men and women can hear Srila Prabhupada's books, hear Srila Prabhupada chanting, and become devotees of Krishna, and maybe even, by the grace of the Lord, go back home, back to Godhead, to serve Radha and Krishna in our original constitutional position. So, having full confidence that we are the product of the mercy of the devotees, let us also give our mercy to every person that we can possibly give it to, in whatever way is possible. Every outreach endeavor is fantastic. Any way that a devotee does it is remarkable and is always better than not doing it. Since, sometimes there's a lot of opinions. It should be done like this. It should be done like that. Is it my turn to share my opinion? My opinion is that it should be done. Whether it's ultra conservative or ultra liberal, my opinion is that it should be done as much as possible. Hare Krishna. I should finish there at 7:58. Strategically did not leave time for questions or comments. No, I'm just kidding. If there's any questions or comments before we depart, dear devotees, thanks for listening to my mad rambling.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, dear. Oh, yes, James. Oh, nice to hear from you. It'd be nice to see you too. You ever coming back? We miss you.
Yeah, I'll be there in a few weeks.
Oh, glorious. How are you, Prabhu?
I'm doing good, Prabhu. I had a quick question. The book that you mentioned, is it just in Russian or there's English translation? It sounds interesting.
I don't think there's an English translation. You can look into it. Okay. It's just called How I Came. In Russian. Okay. But I've never heard of any English translation. Okay. So, sometime we should all do that. We should all start putting together some great stories. I mean, I feel like my story was a miracle, obviously involving devotees, Be nice to start compiling that. It's just so inspiring. It's so inspiring to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the Srimad Bhagavatam begins with a how I came story in the form of Narada Muni's story, right? In his previous life as the son of a maid woman, didn't know his father, and how he got the mercy of the devotees. It begins with that. One of the most famous devotees, Narada Muni. The Bhagavatam begins with the how I came story.
Haribol Prabhu, sorry to interrupt. I have to do RT in a moment, but there were stories in the BTGs about how I came to Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you can find them on the website, but just wanted to put that out there. Thank you
I
for
recall.
class.
Thank you, Mataji. It just seems perhaps nobody's done it recently, kind of like recompiling and getting some new stories.
I think there were some YouTube videos as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love those stories. I love it. It just seems to me like it's always a miracle. Even for you second, third gen devotees, it's still, there's miracles. We should recognize the cause. You might have been primed, you know, at a very favorable situation, but still, we all need the miracle of the association of devotees. Thank you, James. Thank you, Divya Mataji. Agari Krishna Prabhu, is that your digital hand I see raised? Maybe he's disappeared. Run off with the cows. Oh, there he is.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for an inspirational class. With regards to the issue of becoming distracted by material desires while trying to cultivate pure devotion, in your personal experience, have you had a period in your life while serving the mission that you're just like over endeavoring? So just to like maintain your service commitments, you're over endeavoring. And the symptom of that is difficulties in just chanting and just Shravanam Kirtanam. So I'm just trying to understand what is the solution to that? And also like, what is the psychology where a devotee, a practitioner coming to devotional service, they become initially attracted to devotional service, but then their false ego basically mixes things up, and then they just find themselves in a situation that they over endeavoring. In other words, entangling yourself in duties and commitments by trying to advance in devotion, by trying to advance your devotion. So, like for example, taking up to the Grihastha ashram, you might find yourself that you are entangling yourself by the means with which are supposed to actually give you liberation. Yeah.
Thanks, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Bit of a loaded question. The only time I ever felt like I was really overdoing it was when I was working at Gita Nagari. I'm sorry. We all know the bhava at Gita Nagari. There's so much to do. I've lived at a few communities, served in a few communities, and I've never seen one where there's just so much going on all the time. It's hard. It's a challenging place. I mean, if you can survive here, dear devotees, you can survive anywhere, which is why I would say, in regards to your statement about me being entangled, that actually I don't feel entangled. I gotta be totally honest. I am ready to go. And considering what's been going on with air travel recently, I mean, maybe next Friday we're supposed to fly. I don't know. Seems to be a lot of planes falling out of the sky. So I'm fully ready. I mean, I can tell you now, it's not much entanglement. And that's just because I try to do Sankirtan all the time. Hare Krishna. Anyway, that's a whole other subject. But if a person is coming along to bhakti and they're feeling like I got to advance in bhakti and do a lot to advance in bhakti, I mean, it's great to really try to fill your day with as much devotional service as possible. But anything inspired by Rajaguna is going to end in some suffering and some pain and some difficulty. And of course, as you know from reading Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service can be mixed with the mode of passion. The mode of passion is like, I'll do more devotional service and then I'm going to get some better status, and I'm going to be more recognized, and I'm going to have some more success, and all the women are going to see me. When I learned Mridanga, my only motivation was I want all the girls on the other side of the temple to see me playing really nicely. And so I was like practicing so hard that my hands were bleeding. Is that the right motivation? Is that, I wasn't thinking about pleasing Krishna. It's just, I want them to hear my incredible Mridanga playing. And anyway, I was very young. I was 18. So devotional service could be mixed with a mode of passion. And yeah, then we can over endeavor in ways that cause some distress for ourselves. And that's why it's so important to have guidance. As we've heard from our spiritual master so many times, His Holiness Devamrita Swami is always saying, we must take advantage of the guidance of devotees who can tell us, you know what? You need to pull back a little bit here and do more hearing and chanting. Or you know what, Prabhu, you need to get off your butt a little bit and do some more active devotional service. That requires guidance because it's hard for us to see ourselves, especially if we're affected by some passionate motivation. And until we're all pure devotees, we are affected by some passionate motivation. Or at best, some sattva-guna motivation, but even that's a bondage. So I don't have an easy answer to your inquiry, Agari Krishna Prabhu. Just that with guidance, we can find a way to progress in bhakti without being too entangled and not experiencing the pernicious effects of being passionate mixed with rajagun. And even in the Grihastha ashram, you can become fully committed to Radha and Krishna. I think for many people, that's the better situation, having been a brahmachari for many years as well. I think that for most men, that's a better situation. Let's not just assume that it's worse, because it's easy to just say, well, there's all this money and there's all this work to do. No. As we heard from Ekavir Prabhu in a story about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was swimming in it. He's got all the cash, he's got all the opulence, but he's just so devoted to the Lord that Gadadhar Pandit threw himself down and said, let me become your disciple. Sorry, we got to hurry up a little bit. There's some other hands raised. Dear Tarika Prabhu, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I don't know where to begin. Thank you for a lovely class. It was very inspirational, and yeah, very nice to hear. Lots to think about. I had a bunch of thoughts, and now I can't organize any of them. I can't even remember what they were.
That's my fault because I rambled too much. Sorry.
No, it's just having a senior moment. Engagement. So I can tell you that in the early days of Krishna consciousness, we were very, very heavily engaged. And the challenge was somehow or other to find enough time to sleep. It was not unusual for devotees sometimes to go for days without sleep because there was just so much that needed to be done. And it wasn't a matter of passion. It was just a question of doing the needful. There were just things that had to be done, and there were only so many people to do those things, and there was just so much required of a very individual. So it required a lot of surrender, and it was very austere, but and difficult in many ways. Devotees sometimes, struggled for their sadhana and so on, but Srila Prabhupada let us know that he understood what we were doing, and he appreciated very much the sacrifices and the austerities made, and he reciprocated that service in wonderful transcendental ways. So any of those devotees, faced with a similar situation, they would not hesitate to sacrifice again. They wouldn't hesitate for Srila Prabhupada. They'd be happy to accept any austerity. Hey, you mentioned something about that we are Srimad Bhagavatam tells these 4 out stories. Oh wait, maybe before I go there, before I forget something else, how I came to Krishna consciousness. that's a that has historically in ISKCON, that's the standard icebreaker when you meet a new devotee. You ask, how'd you come to Krishna consciousness? And devotees share their stories. And as you say, the stories are always wonderful and magical and exciting in all kinds of ways, very inspirational. And I recommend very highly that whenever you meet devotees, and if you want to get to know a devotee and appreciate them, this is one way to help. You're less likely to take them for granted or commit offense when you understand something about where they've been, and it starts with the story of how they came to Krishna consciousness. So you ask them, Prabhu, how did you become a devotee? And the stories are always amazing. And when you hear about where they've been and what they've done and the miracles in their life, you gain a lot of appreciation for them. And I'm just rushing through this here, but one other thing I want to mention about this is that sometimes you encounter devotees stories that are beyond magical. They are so far out that they are practically unbelievable. And I'll tell you that there are devotees, a good number of devotees whose story of coming to Krishna consciousness is so far out, so mystical, like something out of the Bhagavatam, that they won't tell the story because it hurts their standing and their credibility. People will think that they're crazy, or that they are some kind of sahaja or something. They learned early in their Krishna consciousness that there are things that they just can't talk about and still be taken seriously. So they just stop talking about some of those miracles. And there's lots of devotees like that. I had a conversation recently with Jayant Swami. We were talking about some of those far out stories. It was an Ekadashi, and this conversation went on for hours and hours. It was fabulous, discussing some of these amazing and miraculous things. And he was talking about his advice for a devotee who's got a story that's just too wild to be published in the pages of BTG or even shared with other devotees publicly. So he suggests, just write it all down for your own benefit, so that you don't forget the details, because it's usually wonderful, ecstatic, and amazing Krishna Katha. Very uplifting. That so write it all down so that you remember every detail, and just leave it like that. And then after you pass away, then let devotees have access to it. They can read it, they can publish it, or do whatever they like, and it won't matter because you won't be around, and no one will criticize you, and no one will think less of you, or they won't think you're crazy or whatever, because or if they do, it won't matter. So just write it down and put it aside. You were talking about that we are living like a Bhagavatam story, and of course it's true. We are a latter page in the unending saga of the propagation of Krishna consciousness, where we are part of Lord Chaitanya's movement, and miraculous things happen. It is very much like Srimad Bhagavatam, and actually every bit as exciting. I'll tell you some of my own realizations, and I will risk losing my own credibility here, but I'll tell you that for many of the devotees in our movement, they are experiencing things that are exactly like what you read in Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a war going on, a real live, honest to goodness, life and death battle between devotees and demons. You read about these extraordinary demons in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, and one might wonder, well, where are they now? Why don't we have, it's these incredible demons anymore? And the answer is that we do. You just don't know. You just don't know about them. They don't advertise themselves. Hey, I'm a big demon. Here I am. They are sometimes disguised. Sometimes they are not even visible. There are, for example, all types of living entities. There are the bhutas and the pishachas and the pretas and various other types of ghostly beings, many of whom are very demonic, and you can't see them. And some people choose not to believe that they even exist, but they are there. And I'll tell you that they are very, very, very much aware of the devotees, and they are intelligent and they are organized, and they have taken the business of defeating the devotees very, very seriously. We were talking the other day about high-profile fall downs. Sometimes you see, terrible things happen with someone that, has risen to some particular post and was highly regarded, and then everyone was shocked that something terrible happened, and they don't understand how could that be. Was he pretending all this time? No, he was not pretending. He was a very advanced devotee, but he was attacked. And if ever we have time, I could tell you in detail about some of the different types of ghosts and their activities, what they do, what their activities are. I've studied a lot about this, but the process of thinking, feeling, and willing can actually be hijacked by certain types of living entities. And under the influence of a ghost, a person becomes mad, absolutely mad. You do crazy things and you say crazy things, and they are working day and night to try to find vulnerabilities, weaknesses in devotees, and attack them and thwart their actions. And high-profile devotees are high-profile targets. If you want to defeat an army, if you can take out, a general or some commander, you can throw the entire army into disarray by cutting off its head. That's the strategy. So, it happens not infrequently that some of our big leaders they're subject to attack, and things happen, terrible things happen. Some devotees are aware of what's going on, some are not. There's all kinds of people. There are devotees, for example, who they can see and they can hear these personalities, and they see them everywhere. Not everyone has that ability. Many of us, we're not very conscious of what's happening on the subtle platform. We have subtle bodies, but we're mostly wrapped up in our gross body. The only time we're aware of our subtle body is when we're asleep and dreaming. But some people, 24 hours a day, they're always conscious of that subtle platform, and they see what's going on there. And that's another long story. But anyway, there is a serious war going on, and it's very, very serious, and the stakes are life and death. These entities will kill you if they can, and sometimes they succeed in doing that. But they will destroy your consciousness. What's that expression? Lay your soul to waste. They'll absolutely trash your consciousness and drag you down to hell with them if they possibly can. And they have all kinds of ingenious ways of doing that. Sooner or later, devotees come to a stage at which they have to contend with some of these elements. And Srila Prabhupada gave us lots of information to equip us to deal with such things. He didn't like to talk a lot about the details of these kinds of matters, because when you speak about these types of beings, they actually derive nourishment from that. You attract them, you draw their attention, and they will derive nutrition from your thinking about them and speaking about them. And they can sap your vitality to the point where you become very sickly and even die. They are like vampires in that way. So Srila Prabhupada would not speak about them very much, but he did sometimes. He, made it really clear that they are there, and they are dangerous. They can be extremely dangerous. I can tell you lots of stories. They are extremely dangerous, very, very dangerous. There's been a lot of things, a lot of issues have gone on in ISKCON. Anyway, exciting. Like Srimad Bhagavatam, it's real stuff. We have to fortify ourselves with Sri Harinam. Very important. And I really should say that Srila Prabhupada gave us a lot of instructions, and what he did, he condensed those instructions. He reduced them to very simple terms. He gave us simple instructions that encompassed many, many different things. One instruction would satisfy many other instructions. Just by rising early and bathing and attending Mangala Arati, you satisfy a long list of injunctions for human beings. You bypass a lot of pitfalls. One simple instruction covers many things, but which is wonderful. It makes it simple and easy for us. But the downside of it is that you may not understand the importance of it, because it's so simple. You might think that this is, I can afford to neglect this sometimes, at least, but you don't understand that when you do that, you're then you're doing a lot of harm, because you're neglecting a lot of instructions. It's a big deal, and part of it is that you become vulnerable to attack by these demonic elements. Much of the instructions he gave us are for the purpose of protecting us, because there is danger and they will attack you. The instruction to rise early, to bathe, to keep clean, to wear tilak, and so on. These are, tilak is a kavachan. It's for your protection. Being Suchi is very important. I have one godbrother, Mayapur. The devotees will all know, in Mayapur, the devotees know about this. There's a particular tree in a banana grove between the Goshala and the Gurukula, which is inhabited by a Rakshasa. And sometimes the devotees see him. He looks human, but he has talons rather than feet. His feet look like the talons of an eagle. And sometimes he attacks devotees if they deviate from the standard practices of Krishna consciousness. So I have one godbrother who he went into that banana grove, and he wasn't aware of the danger there. He needed to relieve himself. So he passed stool in the banana grove, and in that muchi state, and there were various other offenses that he committed. You're not supposed to relieve yourself on the shadow of a tree and this and that. There's a whole bunch of things that you need to know, and he didn't know any of those things. So he made every mistake. And so this ghost took advantage of the opportunity and entered his body through his anus while he was passing stool. And that ghost possessed him for 2 years. I have another godbrother whose service it was to take care of this devotee while he was out of his mind for 2 years. And eventually the ghost was kicked out. But in the meantime, very bad situation. To this day, that devotee is terrified. He can't be in a room with the lights out. He has trouble sleeping, and he's terrified of what happened to him. We have other devotees who are very expert in exercising ghosts when these types of things happen. And there's a particular set of mantras, glorification of Hanuman that are frequently used. Anyway, I'm going off on a wild tangent here, but we're living Srimad Bhagavatam, and that there's a war going on. The stakes are high. Right now, most of us are in a training stage. We're preparing ourselves for the big battles, and we're being protected by other more advanced devotees in our infantile stage. But get ready, because it gets wild. It gets very wild. All right, enough of me. Hare Krishna. Thank you again, Haribol.
Hare Krishna Thakur. Thank you for showing us that even the more mystical and strange things that we might read in Srimad Bhagavatam, they're real and they're really happening. Might be uncommon, but it's real stuff. Thank you, Prabhu, for reminding us to appreciate all the different parts of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. It's getting on in time, but we do have some digital hands up. Dina Palika and Janavatsa, you want to say something? If you still have time, we always want to hear from you. Maybe she's frozen. You still there? Janavatsala? Prabhu?
Yeah, sure. After Dina Polika.
No, you first.
Oh, lots of comments. This was a very inspirational class, like Taraka Prabhu said, and I liked how you systematically went through each of the parts that, you know how it's like liberation, and then, you know how you systematically went through. That was very helpful as you went through the text. You reminded me of this very nice verse, 11:20:17 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nirdeham madhyam sulabham sadurlabham plavam sukalpam gurukarnadaram mayanukulena nabasvate editam puman virajeta nataretsa atmaha. It's about how the human body is a boat, and it's very rare to get this human body, and the guru is the captain. So just like we were talking about this rarity of devotional service, I was thinking of the rarity of the human body, and also this verse about the attachment to the body and the attachment to the land of origin. You probably know this one. And also about the straws in the ocean, how we're coming together for a short period of time with our family members, just like straws come together in the ocean and then disperse again. And also this verse from Mundaka Upanishad 3:1-2. Samane vikshe purusho nimagno nishaya shochati muhyamanaha. Jushtam yada pashtyatyanyamisham asya mahimanamiti vita shokaha. It's about the two birds sitting in the same tree. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if by some way or other he turns his face to the Lord, his friend, and knows his glories, at once the suffering burden is free from material anxieties. So this verse reminded me so much about this attachment you were talking about, that Kapila Dev was talking about, and how we're like looking, our karma yoga, we're looking for like attachment to the fruits, and we are looking for the results of our activities. And I was just thinking about maintaining material attachments that we talk about in the 10 offenses, and how this word maintaining, trying to look that up and think about like, how am I maintaining material attachments? What am I doing to continue these material attachments? And also just Mukunda's story. I think it was Mukunda who, after so many lifetimes, he was so grateful that, oh, even if so many lifetimes, I will be, go back. And, so just that kind of mood, how you were saying, we're not going to just become pure devotees just by time passing, but just that appreciation of like, even if I can just be chanting Hare Krishna and go back soon, that gratitude there. And just like how you were talking about, lastly, the devotional service is being, its ultimate cause of devotional service is the association of the devotees. And I was just thinking of Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kai, about the moment's association with the pure devotee. And in the purport, it says 1/11 of a second is that moment of association.
Lava
and how
mantra,
much is that going to do? Yeah, love a mantra. But thank you so much for
Matra is measurement.
Love a mantra.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow, Janavatsa, you're like bringing dessert. It's like we had the meal, and then you just bring a whole tray of desserts in the form of all of these nice shlokas. Can you send me that one from Mundaku Upanishad? I thought it was Vasparna, so you would just kaya.
Sure.
But it sounds like you recited something else.
Right. It could be that there are multiple in the same part of it.
Okay. More than
nearby
one
each other.
verse about birds in a tree? I thought there was only one, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah, please send me that one that you recited. I haven't heard it before.
Sure.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing your nice thoughts and some nice shlokas. Dinapalika Mataji Prabhu, are you still there? If you are, we would love to hear you. You can wrap us up.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Thank you. Wonderful class. We covered a lot of ground. You're speaking about how you've been doing this, like preaching, cultivating for 20 years, and I'm wondering what keeps you going.
I'm not good at anything else. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. No, I'm not honest. I that's all I know how to do. So I just love it. Thank you for I should be honest. I should tell you honestly that, yeah, watching the transformation of people who come to Krishna consciousness, it's so satisfying. It gives me encouragement. I can do it. I mean, look at so many people, somehow by the grace of Krishna, I brought them along, and they're just so much better devotees than I am. So I just feel like, okay, I can do it. I could become a devotee of Krishna. I mean, look at all these people. So I just love that. I love that experience. And I'm just so grateful for those devotees who helped me. I mean, I'd like to use some 4-letter words, but this is a Bhagavatam class. I was a real jerk. There's a nice 4-letter word. But the devotees were so patient and so kind and so tolerant. And I'm just so grateful for that. I can't help but try to do the same for some others. So those are the answers. And also, I'm not very good at anything else.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Kalaswarup is commenting in the chat here that he can confirm that there's also been some entities attacking. Yes, I think many of us have experienced some attack from bhutas causing difficulties. It's a real experience. So we should take seriously the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not just some fantasy story. This is real stuff happening to us right now. The devotees are being transformed by the association of Vaishnavas, and so similarly, we can transform others, having faith in the words of Srimad Bhagavatam. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all of the assembled devotees who are very patiently and kindly listening, ki jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. The demigods are raining flowers. Hare Krishna.